we believe that humans are a specific way by nature. And people on the left believe that people can be changed constantly. They believe that humans can be perfected if only given the right set of instructions from the smart people. Yeah. People would suddenly change their stripes and not be tigers anymore. It just doesn't work that way. Humans are going to be humans, and I think that why I was attracted to 5 years ago when I left the left and went over to the right side of things is that I thought, well, these people are dealing with human beings as they exist, and when we're talking about, okay, what is a conservative? I'm trying to conserve. Really, the better word would be preserve the structures of society that I think are bringing us to the best possible outcome given what we really are and given the capacity for savagery that we have demonstrated so many times. People, with the right charismatic person, the Germans only 70 years ago marched off into genocide and slaughter, thinking that they were doing the right thing. It's not hard to get human beings to follow into some serious evil. And so you need a structured society, I mean, just to keep boys from shooting each other, just to keep boys from knocking the crap out of each other, certainly something like as horrible as shooting up a school. You have to have structures. There has to be a lot of, so you have to always go, okay, given the fact that this is a boy, what does this boy need? And the left has really tried very hard to erase the delineation between boy and girl. We want to show girls doing everything that boys can do. So they give us all these movies where 98-pound chick is karate chopping guys the size of linebackers, and they're knocking out. I'm sorry, that's just stupid. Women have amazing superpowers, but beating up men in fistfights is not one of them. And so it's really stupid. And so simultaneously, the women's movement, as it's been distorted lately, has been trying to denigrate everything that men do and encourage girls to do all those things. Mm-hmm. Sure. So it's like, okay, it's really more about masculine behavior because they keep trying to force all the girls into doing masculine behavior. And, men don't like to compete with women. We just don't like it. It makes us feel sick to our stomach. You don't want to ever fight a girl. A girl comes after you and she, everyone has a story of a little girl who had a crush on you when you were in third grade and would come up and kick you in the shins or whatever. I had a girl named Mary Shea, I think was her last name. And she would come up and kick me with her it was Catholic school. And so, we had these nasty big shoes that were totally intended to go from, down through the legacy of 7 children, it'd be new soles. These were big, hard shoes for the boys and girls. And I would be talking with a friend, and she would come up and just kick me in the shins. I didn't heal for months. And my mom says, she likes you. I go, yeah, but it's killing me. Yeah. I don't know what to do about it. That was her way of getting my attention, but it never, and so there was no way in the world I was going to run after her and get her on the ground and punch her out. Whereas if a guy did that to me, eventually I would do that. Right. And that's the thing with guys, you can't control women in that way, and we don't want to. We don't allow each other to, and we don't want to. We don't want to compete with women. We want to compete with other guys for the attention of women.
A good example of what you were saying was when John McEnroe had said something like, Serena Williams is the greatest female tennis player of all time. And they said, well, why would you say female? And he's like, because she's the greatest female player. Like, but why not just the greatest player, right? And he's like, because she's not the greatest player. If we're gonna take out female out of it, she's not the greatest. And they're like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know. She could be like 500th or 700th. He said something like that in the world. And then they brought him. They even brought him back, I think, on Good Morning America or something like that the next day or the day after.
And they wanted to force him to
get him to apologize. And he's like, no. He's like, because there is a difference. There's a difference. She doesn't hit the ball as fast. She doesn't run as fast. Now listen, Serena Williams would wipe the floor up with me. Like, I played a little tennis back in the day, but she would destroy me, and she's the greatest female player of all time. She's unbelievable. Right. How far tennis has come just as a sport in general. Right.
And she's unusually burly
and strong, super athletic, strong, big, tall.
Even given the fact, well, you look at her and you go, okay, she's really a super strong woman. You could tell it's genetic, and she's super strong woman. Still, it was accurate that she would not be able to beat.
She can't beat Roger Federer, right? She can't. Yeah, she get destroyed by him,
and guys that don't look as impressive for men as she does for a woman.
That's right.
But there's Joe Rogan sometimes talks about the mechanical advantage that men have just because they're the way that they're built. They just have their certain mechanical advantages that a man has. Our bodies are built different. A woman is built with wider hips. A guy's built with narrower hips. A woman's built with narrower shoulder. And guys, myself not so much included, most guys have broader shoulders than I do. My gene pool got a little bit. A few rocks got tossed in the gene pool along the way, so it didn't work out so well for me. But the thing is, when I was young, it was perfectly clear where my place was in the food chain, and every guy has to come to the realization that he can't do what every other guy does. Everybody knows that. Are we about getting down to the end of this thing?
I'm just checking, just make sure everything's running fine.
But every guy is perfectly clear that there are many, many other guys who are going to be able to do things that he's not able to do. Sure. I mean, certainly I gave up sports very early. I just wasn't going to be very good at it. I was small and slow, and unfortunately I wasn't terribly bright at that time either. My brain came on a little bit later in life. Now I'm at a place with music that I can do music pretty well. But I know perfectly well that there's other guys that'll mop the floor with me in music as well.
That's right.
So you do the best you can, and you don't live within some kind of either a sense of resentment or a sense of fantasy about, I have to, this idea that you can be anything you want to be in life. What a bullshit statement. Of course you can't be anything you want in life. If you tell every kid that they can be president of the United States, well, I'm sorry, most of them can never be president of the United States because of the skill level. And even if most of them could, well, there's too many trying. Right. There's going to be, there's many, many reasons why everybody can't be everything.
Right. And to get to the top, you have to beat a bunch of people. And all those people thought they were trying to get to the top too. And the top is a lonely place.
But there's just
and it's lonely because only one person can be there, or only a few can be there. And
right, at the Olympics, you got the 3 people on the stand, and all those other people that were in that event too.
Right.
Nobody remembers you at all if you're 4th fastest in the world. Right.
But you might take that and go like, man, I worked my butt off, and I was somewhat successful. I got 4th place, or I got 5th place, or I even made the Olympic team. That's something to be to
right, and you'd be a celebrity among your friends. I have a friend named Craig Lincoln, who is a very impressive guitar player and singer. And early on, he was on the Olympic diving team, and he was, I don't know if he medaled at all, but it's given him a little bit of a thing.
Sure.
So he's got a little bit of a local celebrity around that. I'm mentioning it right now.
Right. So hashtag Craig. What was his name?
Craig Lincoln.
I think ultimately, if the movement of the left is to destroy the difference between men and women,
right,
they'll ultimately fail, because all you got to do is meet a woman, right? There's nothing my wife could do against me. I'm not the strongest guy in the world. I'm a small guy. She's 5'5" or something like that, average size woman, 100 and I don't want to say, but like 130 pounds or something. She have no chance against me. Right? And it's not because I'm so tough. It's not because I don't know how to fight. I learned some skill or anything. She's never done some things that I've done. I've played football with the guys and got hit hard once. She's never been hit hard like that.
Are you talking about you and your wife getting into a boxing match or something?
That's my point. That she would never have a chance. And that's the same. Serena Williams, no matter how good she becomes, she can never beat unless the guys quit playing.
Right.
And decide that they're not.
But you see, Jason, the problem with what's happening with feminists is they want, we're seeing with this whole Me Too movement, that they're saying, while they're saying that men are the problem, they're saying that men are the only ones who can bear responsibility. So if you're out with a woman in college or something like that, both of you get drunk off your ass, you decide to go home and you have sex, and the next day the woman wakes up and she goes, "Oh my God, what have I done? I feel like that was a violation of me." The guy, just as drunk as the woman, in a situation where drunkenness is a party and everybody's affirming it, he is going to be prosecuted for something that she changed her mind about. But she would never be prosecuted for something he changed his mind about. So they're saying the women are strong and powerful, but they're so weak. They can't make their own decisions. They're not in charge of what they wear and how they behave and how many shots they take. Women aren't in charge of those things. So, I mean, they're telling us but guys are, even though guys are no better than women, and in fact, women are better than men. So, I mean, they're talking out, sometimes in the same sentence,
Both
they'll
sides,
tell us
no
the completely conflicting messages. And you just think, what is the end game for this? It's, Jordan Peterson talks about something that I think is, I'm beginning to think about myself, because we talk about leftists and Marxists, and I think we have a pretty good handle on that. But he talks about the postmodernist movement that started at a place where it just became really obvious that communism doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So the Marxists sort of went in another direction. They decided, and he calls them cultural Marxists sometimes, and he calls them postmodernists at other times. And I guess there were some philosophers at the time, like the French philosopher Jacques Derrida, who he talks about. And so they began to go after society to bring society down through culture. And I think there's something really to be said for that. So I'm paying a little bit more attention to that, because oftentimes you look at it and you just go, what's the end goal here? How does this benefit anybody with all this victim thinking and all this stuff? And where you don't ever want to, I got in so much trouble when I did that one video. All I was saying was, be aware that these are dangerous situations, and don't put yourself into dangerous situations.
Right.
And oh my God, the hatred I got off just basically saying that.
Right, because women are allowed to do whatever they want to do, and they have no repercussions.
Right,
but at the same, and they're just as able-bodied as a man. They're identical to a man in every way of life, except they're victims of men.
Always.
Right, so they're the victim, and they're just as
able right up to the point where that doesn't serve our narrative anymore.
That's right. And yeah, I also struggle with I'm the kind of guy that's like, I try to take people for what they are. I try to understand a situation by hey, if it doesn't make sense, it probably didn't happen like that, or that's probably not what's going on. But when you start thinking about the left's movement and the Marxists, the postmodernists, it kind of takes you into a place where you go like, well, this doesn't make any sense. So what is it that they're doing, right? It doesn't make any sense. For us to battle about the 67 different genders and so on, or whatever it is, for that to be the topic of people in school and so on, what are they trying to do? I don't know, right? And that's the scary part.
Right.
I get it when you say corruption. You say the people will say, the conservatives, or they'll say the right. Oh, they're just about money, and they're setting up the scam in the system so they can get rich and so on. Right.
Well, at least that's an accusation that we're used to and we can deal with.
Well, I can understand.
Right. You can see how you draw that conclusion by the super rich guys that you've seen and the poor people.
It's not even the conclusion. I can see the desire for someone in power to want to rig the game into their favor.
Sure, and there's some of that goes on.
Of course, right? I can see that. And I think that's, not to get off the subject, but that's part of why the Constitution is so important in limiting that power that people can have over us, because they will use it that way. But the ideological left, they scare me because are they in it for money? Are they in it for world domination? What are they in it for? I can't figure it out, and that's the scary part. Are they in it for to make a communist one world that they think that they can achieve this utopia? Is that what it is after they kill 500 million people, or what?
You look at these things and you realize that humans, I think what we're talking about today, we keep returning to, is the need for attention, and I've often thought that the left is the party of the cool kids. And a lot of times it's made up of people who weren't cool kids in high school, but they figured out a way to get smart and to speak with a lot of polysyllabic words and long sentences. And they went off to school and they did really well. They're very verbal. The left tends to be very verbal and put a lot of value on verbal. So they go off to college and they find out that this is a way for me to be powerful. This is a way for me to get attention. And they'll do just about anything to get the attention of their peers. So in the same way that these kids that play on sports teams or guys who go to war, and you interview them later, and they're not fighting in the trenches for some vague, geopolitical notion. They're fighting for their bros, and people are in their team. And I just think the colleges have been very good at making the team bigger every year. And so there's this team so you have all these trigger words and all these things that are designed. If you spot somebody like me saying #he too, you just go after them. And, and these people, they were so going after us. I mean, it was this organized movement to shut us down. And it was all really so they could be the cool kids. Because in their world, the cool kids are like this. Activists are the cool kids now. Where you look at them and you go, you can't possibly have been the cool kid in high school because look at you. But they're the cool kids now. And they've figured out a way it's so much of what's happening is they don't even know what life is. They don't even know what a business takes to put on. They don't know what happens. I have people all the time, say, well, wait a minute, you're 22 years old. You've only been in the adult world for a couple of years. And I've been in here for decades and decades and decades, plus your 2 years. And why do you assume so readily that you know more than I do?
Right.
I did when I was that age. You just don't know yet. But they never pause to think about the argument that you're giving them. And you're a master at this. You try to draw them in and make the argument. And they don't want to make the argument. They want to be seen by their bros attacking you. Yeah. Or by that girl they're trying to impress, that they go ahead and put her name, they link her name in, come and see me being a super feminist, and then they think later they're going to get some benefits from that because they've proven their place in the cool kids. And in a sense, I think that, even on the right, there's the cool kids. There's the cool kids wherever you go.
Of course. But I think the question that I can't answer is that who is the person that's really believes the postmodernist? Like who is that person, right? Like and how are they getting to so many people to make everybody victims, to make everybody want to seek attention that way, to make everybody think that somehow me going like, well, I'm a man, I'm different than this woman that's sitting next to me. Like, oh, we got to get that guy to think differently. That guy is somehow thinking like an old person would. We got to get his they want to treat that as like I'm like some kind of old racist from the South, and they I'm gonna have to die with that kind of thinking or something. And I think some people, we get people tell us to die and all kinds of crazy stuff all the time. We try to hide most of those comments.
We do because it's
really like
scary a little bit.
It is kind of scary, but they start off with that like. They want you to die because they think that's the only way your way of thinking will be gone, right?
Right.
But is it really that wrong that a man and a woman are different? I mean, it's like how can we possibly, and how can they possibly think that that's going to die with me and you, or that's going to die with the older generation? Because all you got to do, like I said, is every 5-year-old knows that he's different than the 5-year-old girl next door for whatever reason.
And the guy protesting loudest that, of course, I would never try to get laid. I treat women as they're my equals in every way. I'm not here to get laid. They're saying that to get laid. They're saying that because they think this will cause her to go, oh, my hero. Did you see how he out-pussified that other guy that was also a pussy? Oh, my God. But the thing is, it doesn't really work. Yeah. Women are attracted to guys who are competent and strong, and they have been so brainwashed by a bunch of feminists. I don't think it's possible to overstate the negative impact of second-wave feminism on society. It's taught. It's made women uncomfortable. It's made men uncomfortable. It's made them uncomfortable with one another, and it's just destroying the fabric. And I mean, to say, okay, the nuclear family is the building block of society. Oh, it sounds like such an old thing to say, but it is.
Right.
It is. It's a genius way of whereas in the tribes, men wanted to either be all the men wanted to be the alpha. So there was all these revolts going on, and women all wanted to sleep with the alpha. So the alphas often had harems worth of women, and all the other guys didn't have any until they finally got mad enough that they killed the alpha. You know, and it was just an untenable structure, particularly once you got big enough to have cities. So the genius was that you figured out how to emphasize very strongly one man with one woman and then some children. Then each man has really his own little tribe. Every man can be an alpha. He's got this, he has meaning built into his life. And the woman was there, and she was taking care of the babies, and you know, and so now people go, "What is he saying that a woman should be home taking care of babies?" Yeah, frankly, I am. In most cases, that's the most important thing that a woman could do. I mean, you're going to raise 5 or 6 human beings that carry your values into the world. Tell me that that is a lesser job and unimportant compared to being a middle manager somewhere in a manufacturing plant down in Downey somewhere where they make a bolt that fits somewhere on an airplane. You're doing important work wherever you are, but there's nothing that even approaches the importance of raising good humans. That's the big one. And so we have a whole bunch of very angry feminists who are making a point of not having any children, and
or not raising, or saying it's okay to not raise them in the nuclear family.
Right. And so they're making a point of not having kids, and you got a whole bunch of conservative women who are having 6 and 8 and 10 kids, and they're homeschooling them. So they are really putting their values into these kids. They're putting their religious values, they're putting their all their ethics and things like that into these kids. And at a given time, you're going to have one woman over here, she's going to die alone because she will have outlived her hippie husband by 15 years, and she'll die alone with her surrounded by her cats. And over here, you're going to have a woman breathing her last breath, surrounded by a mountain of children. She'll die in her own home, and they're all wadded into the doorway, all the grandkids, all the great-grandkids. And she's going to think to herself, well, I don't think my life was wasted. Look at all these people who would not be here had I not had children, had I not taken the time to raise them properly.
Yeah.
So
the nuclear family, we've heard Thomas Sowell and Larry Elder and these guys talk about it a lot. And I did the video "A World Without Fathers," and that's exactly what you're talking about here. Without a father, that's automatically making the mom not be able to be the supportive mom she could be.
Right.
And let's say I'm not against untraditional, if you will, like if the wife's got a great job and the husband wants to stay home, I'm not against that. But the idea that we're gonna let the school system tell the kid, nurture the kid all through until he's an adult, and let him come home to TV every day and the internet and all that stuff, and then expect him when he's 19, 20 years old to go off to college, and that he's going to be this well-rounded, ethical, very down-to-earth guy. He's not going to be. Because he never had that structure.
And maybe this explains why the postmodernists gave up on the overt efforts to overthrow capitalism with Marxism, largely, and went for these cultural things, to overthrow cultural traditions, is because they know that people are going to become so unmoored, and there are going to be so many people that have decided not to have children. There are going to be so many people who did let go of their children, that there's going to be all kinds of dysfunction, and they're going to really then need somebody to straighten them out, and that's where big government comes back in again.
That's interesting.
So they figure, okay, if we mess people up enough that they won't be strong in their small units, they're going to look to the large unit, maybe. So.
That's interesting. I think we should leave it there for the day.
I think we should.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is
good talk, brother.
Yeah, we got off to a little bit of a slow start, but I think we did all right. And so if we do have anybody who actually views this far along, feel free to contact us and and send us some questions or whatever that you want to hear. Maybe we'll do a live thing one of these days, but we're figuring out the technology. Jason's our technology guy, and I just stand around looking stupid.
Well, that sums it up for me.